Hi, thank you for joining us today. My name is Alex Bauer. I am a Chrome browser customer engineer. I work with enterprise customers and help with any sort of technical challenges or issues that come out of managing Chrome in an enterprise environment. Today, we're going to talk about managing Chrome from the cloud and your existing management tools. If you're listening live and have any questions, please submit them below and we will answer them during this session. As part of this session, we'll cover three main components that have to deal with managing Chrome. So first, we're going to recap today's challenges with managing Chrome in an enterprise environment. We're going to then show you some examples on how you can leverage Chrome browser cloud management using some of your tools such as JAMF or VMware. And then finally, we're going to cover some best practices and resources. To start, let's talk about why you should be managing your Chrome instances in your environment. So first, you want to maybe set up an enterprise experience for all your users. Maybe you want to configure bookmarks or extension deployment or any other settings that you want to apply for your users, which would allow you to have a consistent enterprise experience across all of your machines for all of your employees. You also want to implement security controls that allow you to keep your organization safe. And finally, you can control the versions and updates for your devices, which would allow you to keep your machines at a common configuration across your enterprise to limit the variability that comes out of different versions of Chrome running in your network. Now let's talk about traditional browser management. There are many places to configure Chrome currently. You can do that through GPO, registry, group policy, master preferences,plists for Mac and Linux. It's a very convoluted process that can become very challenging very quickly. First, you have to deploy the ADMX templates for GPO if you're doing GPO management, and you have to keep track of those and make sure they're deployed in all of your Active Directory controllers. You have to make sure that those templates are updated every 6 weeks, which a lot of our customers don't necessarily do that. Registry, you got to dig down through the registry and deploy all those settings through your registry management tools, and once again, that can be challenging. Master preferences files and plists, you have to keep track of all those files, where you're storing them, how you're deploying them, making sure there's no typos and other configuration issues, and then test and retest and make sure that all these configuration policies and files are actually applying correctly onto your machines. Another thing is that your deployment only usually happens when you're on network, especially for GPO and registry, right? You cannot push those policy updates when your machines are not necessarily connected to your enterprise network, if your users are in a Starbucks or a cafe shop or anything like that. So there's a lot of benefit from being able to set up one policy in a single location and have it deploy across all platforms and devices. So for that, we came up with Chrome Browser Cloud Management. Chrome Browser Cloud Management is a cloud-based solution that allows you to set up one set of policies across all of your enterprise devices, Mac, Windows, Linux, any of those desktops. One other benefit of the Chrome Browser Cloud Management Console is that a lot of the settings that you configure for your desktops would as well be used onto Chrome OS devices. So if you're ever looking at deploying any of those machines in the future, a lot of the work that you're doing for these desktops will allow you to have a much faster deployment of that platform. You also have the capability of doing an easy extension deployment. It's a very user-friendly interface that allows you to quickly search the Chrome Web Store, add an extension to the list, and set up deployment for that extension to your devices. As well as mentioned earlier, it's network agnostic. You don't have to worry about where your users are on the network. Are they at work? Are they at home, on travel, or anything like that? As soon as the machines are on the internet or connected to the internet, all the policies deploy, or any changes to the policies deploy automatically to those machines. So let's show you a quick demo of the Chrome Browser Cloud Management Console and how you would configure things in it and all of the data that the browsers report back into it. The Chrome Browser Cloud Management Console is part of the Google Admin Console. So once you log into the Google Admin Console, you can see the Devices section. And under the Devices section, you can see Manage Browsers. Quick hint, a lot of the settings from the Manage Browsers section also apply to Chrome OS devices. So a lot of the settings that you configure for your Manage Browsers on the desktop will be inherited on Chrome OS as well. So once again, one-stop shop for everything Chrome. So let's click on Manage Browsers in here, take a quick look. In here, you can see all devices are shown into a list. Anything that's a Windows, Mac, or Linux device shows in the list in here. You can build your bucketing on the left side. We call it organizational units. And you can do it whatever works for you, by username, by geo, by use case. You build your organization on the left side, and once you're done with that, you click on the bottom right onto enroll browsers, and this generates a token for you. This token is the only thing you need to deploy onto your machines. And once Chrome launches and it detects the token, it becomes managed by the console. Let's take a quick look onto a machine. Blackhawk, for example, has multiple instances of Chrome. You can see all the extensions that are deployed onto the machine. And you can also see the machine policies that are applied to all the profiles on the machine, as well as plugins and custom fields. If an extension is out of date, you can force install it, which will install it on all the machines in that OU, but also update the extension for this machine itself. You can also block an extension that you don't necessarily deem as approved for work, or that you want it to have to be installed on this machine or any machines in the OU. So you can click block, and that blocks it for all the machines. If we go back to the Chrome menu, in here you can see a few links that apply to Chrome management. Manage browsers is what I just showed you. User and browser settings, apps and extensions, and apps and extension usage report are some of the links that we care for when it comes to managing desktop browsers. So let's take a look at user and browser settings. In here is where you would configure all the settings that apply for your browsers, such as incognito, such as cookie settings, cache settings, bookmarks configuration. You can also configure any sort of like pop-up behavior, URL blocking, lots and lots of settings that you'd want to deploy. Another one that is very interesting is you can configure Chrome updates for Windows. So all the settings are in here, as well as, for example, legacy browser support, which allows you to tie in Chrome with an Internet Explorer and forward users for legacy applications into IE directly, and then they would be forwarded back into Chrome for any non-legacy applications. If we scroll all the way up, and there is a shortcut to application settings page. This is where you configure policies for your extensions based on permissions and types of applications. Instead of setting up deny lists for your extensions by name, you can just directly set up a policy, for example, by permission. So if you have an extension that wants to set up a VPN provider or access your for example, your CPU metadata, or sets up proxy, or get your identity, once you click save, any of those extensions that try to use any of those permissions will be blocked from installing or running on your instances. You can also configure runtime block host, which means that when a user navigates to a specified host in this list, all the extensions on that tab will be deactivated. So this is a very useful feature to increase the security of some of the internal websites that your users access by denying extension access to any of the data of those URLs. Going back to the Chrome menu, in the apps and extensions, here's where you configure all the extension policies for your users. So for example, if you want to allow an extension, you can add it to the list, which means that a user can go to the Chrome Web Store and physically install the extension. Think of like how you set up deny lists previously to deny by permission. You can whitelist or allow individual extensions to be installed by adding them to the list in here as allow. You can also configure extensions with block, which means that if a user tries to install it, or if it's already installed, it will never run onto the browser. As well as force install, which means that as soon as the browser gets managed, any of those extensions that are set up with force install, they will be installed automatically. So this allows you to set up that enterprise deployment for all the extensions that you want all your users to have in your enterprise. Back to the Chrome menu again, and apps and extensions usage report. This is a very, very useful report that gives you a lot of capability. For example, it can give you a lot of the tally or the count of installations for an extension in your browser instances. It also gives you the permissions that an extension is trying to use, which allows you to kind of gain a better perspective of what the extension is doing. So if there's an extension you don't necessarily know or trust, by looking at the permission, you can see if it's trying to access any data that it shouldn't. And then from there, you can block it, and then it just disappears or gets blocked from ever running on any of your enterprise machines. If you find an extension that you think all of your users should have, you can go ahead and force install it, which means that all your users should be getting it installed automatically onto your managed browsers. So once again, the benefit of this page is that it gives you insights in what your users are doing, how often they're using or they're installing a certain extension, any permissions that the extension is using, and you can also get a quick link to the Chrome Web Store to figure out more details about the extension itself. That was a demo of the console. What do you think? It's pretty easy, right? You can easily get an inventory of all of your machines in your network and see how often they get onto the internet, easily deploy your extensions and configure all of the policies in a very user-friendly interface. So let's do a quick review of how you would deploy and enroll Chrome now using Cloud Management Console, as well as some of your existing management tools. So first, how do you deploy Chrome into your network? We offer a Windows MSI package, which you can deploy through GPO or your favorite UEM or EMM tool of choice, such as Workspace ONE, GPO, SCCM, or any other tool that you might have. For Mac, we offer a PKG and a DMG. We listened very closely to our users' feedback on some of the challenges that they had with managing DMGs and pushing those onto Mac. So we released, as of version 80 for Chrome, we released a PKG package, which allows you to have a simplified deployment, guarantee that all of the components are installed correctly and where they need to be. And you can push that once again with your favorite tool of choice, such as JAMF Pro, Workspace ONE, or any other tool that you would use to manage your Mac OS devices. So now that you've deployed Chrome into your enterprise, how do you manage it? So this is where you build a set of bucketing or a configuration that you can differentiate for different use cases. And then after that, you have to deploy or bucket or assign your devices to that configuration. So for that, you build an organizational structure, as we showed into the demo. Your organizational structure can be by geo, by use case, by your organizational unit, or a combination of things. But as we tell all of our customers, keep it simple, configure the use case that works best for you, and think of your population of your users. What are some of the use cases that you would need? For example, all of your or majority of your users have one single configuration. Then you might need a differentiator for your developers or your admins or things like that. So then build your bucketing structure or your organizational structure that way. But you can build it to match your Active Directory configuration if that's something you're comfortable with. So now that you've built your bucketing or your organizational structure, how do you enroll the browser? So for that, for Windows, we offer a registry file. For Mac and Linux, we offer a plist file or a managed preferences file for Mac. For Windows, you can deploy that registry file through your favorite registry manipulation software that you use for your enterprise, or you can deploy that as part of your enterprise image, or you can push that with GPO or Intune or SCCM, for example. For Mac, we've worked very closely with some of the premier vendors for UEM tools, and we're going to show you very soon a demo of how to do that. Once the browser launches and it detects that registry file, it checks in with our console, gets its configuration and extension list and everything else, and you don't have to worry about any sort of GPO policies as you used to do in the past or in any other configurations that you had to deploy, right? The token is the only thing you have to have available onto the machine. Another benefit of this is that it doesn't matter when you install Chrome. You could have had Chrome installed a few years ago, a few months ago, install it right now as part of the deployment, or you can just have the token staged for whenever users install Chrome onto their machine. So let's talk really quick about how you would leverage some of your current management tools that you use in your environment. First, we're going to cover Mac. For the Mac platform, we've worked very closely with JAMF, which is one of the major UEM solution provider. We now offer a streamlined deployment, which you don't have to worry about deploying the plist file. You copy a very quick JSON from our support article, paste the enrollment token from the console, and push that payload as you would do any other Mac configuration profile through JAMF. And as soon as the users start Chrome on their machines, they become managed by our console. Let's show you a quick demo of how you would deploy that enrollment token using JAMF Pro on your Mac machines. All right, let's show you how easy it is to deploy the Chrome browser enrollment token via the JAMF Pro console. So first, you're going to sign into your JAMF Pro console, navigate to Computers, and then click on Configuration Profiles. You're going to give it a name, configure all the distribution methods and everything, and then you're going to scroll down to Application and Custom Settings. Click Configure. Next, you're going to click on Custom Schema, com.google.chrome for the domain. You're going to navigate to our support article that's referenced in this presentation and copy the JSON text, paste it under Schema, then click on Properties. Here you're going to just paste your enrollment token and click Save and continue with the rest of the assignment steps and everything else you need to do to deploy a profile. And that's it. That was pretty easy, right? All you have to do is copy the JSON into the JAMF console, paste the enrollment token, and then deploy that payload as you do any other macOS configuration packages. And then all of those browsers then get managed by our console as soon as Chrome launches onto those machines. Next, we also worked with VMware to integrate Chrome Browser Cloud Management with their Workspace ONE console, or to simplify the enrollment token deployment for both Windows and macOS. We're going to show you a quick demo of how to deploy the token on both the Windows and macOS platforms. And as usual, as with the JAMF deployment, you have to copy a JSON, replace the token, and then deploy the payload into your assigned machines. So let's show you a quick demo of that. All right, similar to how we did with JAMF Pro, let's show you how easy it is to deploy your Chrome Browser Cloud Management enrollment token via Workspace ONE. Log into your Workspace ONE console. First, you're going to click on Profiles and Resources, then Profiles. Click on Add Profile. So first we're going to show you for Mac OS. So let's click on Mac OS. And we're going to click on Device Profile. And you're going to have to give it a name and an assignment group. And then you're going to scroll down and click on Custom Settings. Click Configure. Similar to how we did with JAMF, let's navigate to our support article and copy the Custom Settings XML and paste it in here. In here, you're going to have to replace the XXX strings with your enrollment token. And then click Save and Publish, and you're good to go. Now let's show you how easy it is to do for Windows as well. Click on Add, Profile, Windows, Windows Desktop, Device Profile. Scroll down to Custom Settings, Configure. In here, you're going to have to change your target to Workspace ONE Intelligent Hub. Then, similar as before, go to our support article, copy your XML for the installation, copy the XML for your uninstallation. Windows works slightly different than Mac, so you're going to have to do it for both of them. And you're going to replace your token in both locations. And as usual, give it a name and smart group, save and publish, and you're good to go. So there you have it. Similar to JAMF for VMware Workspace ONE, all you have to do is paste the JSON into the custom XML payload, replace the enrollment token into the payload, and then deploy that onto your machines. As soon as Chrome launches, it becomes managed by our console, and then all the payload configurations and extensions and so forth get applied to the browsers, and then your users are good to go. Next, let's talk about some of the additional benefits of using the Chrome Browser Cloud Management Console versus some of those legacy deployment methods such as GPO and registry. First thing is policies and inheritance. We do a top-down approach for policies, which means that you can configure your enterprise policy at the very top organizational unit, and it gets inherited on all of the sub-organizational units in your configuration. One thing you can do is then granularly break inheritance or override policy at a lower OU instead of having to rebuild all of the configuration policies for just a simple differentiator or policy change that you would need to apply for a use case such as like administrators or developers, right? So for that, you can just navigate to a lower OU, change it, just the individual setting that you need to be unique for that OU, press save, and all the other policies get inherited automatically. In the screenshot over here, you can see that For example, the custom avatar is inherited from the global organization, which means that from the company level, at the sign-in settings, that configuration is locally applied, which means that it's overridden at that specific OU. And another thing you can do is you can inherit all of the configuration as it would be out of the box from when you install Google, and that would be inherited from Google default. Now let's talk about how you keep your browser updated and how you control that update process. We've brought the update controls for Windows into our console. So you can configure things such as version pinning, rollback controls, relaunch notification, automatic restart timer, and you can specify the update schedule. What does all of that mean? For version pinning, you can configure Chrome to remain at a specific version that you deem as part of your enterprise standard. Or maybe you want to roll back Chrome to a previous version if there's any sort of incompatibilities between the new version and your enterprise applications. Maybe you want to notify your users to restart their browser as soon as Chrome has updated. So you can configure your relaunch notification settings for that. Also, if your users don't necessarily restart their browser when they should, you can configure an automatic restart timer. So what that means, if a user does not restart their browser in a specified time, they won't be able to use that browser instance until they restart the application. You can give them a friendly nudge on keeping their browser instances up to date. You can also specify an update schedule, which means that you can configure when Chrome checks in with the servers for an update. You can set it to be automatic. You can set it to never happen if you push each individual Chrome update manually, or you can configure the update to happen manually, as in the user has to physically go and check in for an update. And the last thing, you can configure the cache policy for updates in order to reduce the bandwidth on your network. Extension reporting. That's another benefit for the console, which, as mentioned in the demo or in earlier as well, you can get an inventory of all of the extensions in your company. You can quickly see all the extensions that just individual users are having installed in their machines, and as well as the permissions that an extension is using. So if an extension looks a little fishy, but it's asking a lot of permissions that it shouldn't have access to, you can quickly click on the extension and block it for the whole enterprise or organizational unit. So you get quick access to extension control just from this report as well. And without accessing the user's browser history, once again, privacy is very important for us, you can still get an idea of what they're doing with their machines just by looking at some of the extensions that they have installed in their machines. So that was a quick demo of the Chrome Browser Cloud Management Console and some of the benefits that it offers and how you would use any of your existing enterprise tools to push the enrollment token and to integrate your Chrome management with the Chrome Browser Cloud Management Console. To get more information on what we walked through today, check out these resources. I'll pause here if you need to screenshot this slide. The first link is the Chrome Browser Cloud Management website. This offers you any information you need on what the tool is and what you need to do to sign up for this tool. The second link is your Chrome Browser Cloud Management Help Center, which offers all the tutorials and documentation you need on how to configure Chrome Browser Cloud Management onto your machines. And the third tool offers the Enterprise Downloads and Resources page, which gives you all the MSI packages and PKGs and DMGs to deploy Chrome onto your enterprise machines. Also, don't forget to sign up for our next Chrome Browser Enterprise webinar on 6/24. To register, please head over to chromeonair.withgoogle.com, and we hope to see you on the next session. Finally, thank you for joining today and have a fantastic rest of the day, and please stay safe and healthy.